Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Lethal Sales. So nice of you to be here. We're very grateful you are. Tonight, the topic is the economy and how that affects the dealership auto business, with people losing jobs and not having quite as much money. How do we get around that? What do we do to help them? And how much of that is impacting the bottom line? You ready, Peter?
Absolutely. So, first of all, I'd like to put my deepest thoughts out to my American neighbors to the south, with this being September 11th and the 23rd anniversary of that tragic date. So I want to give my deep felt um, uh, thoughts that and it breaks, even though that I wasn't directly involved with it, the whole world was, and it still breaks me up to this day. So I want to extend that courtesy out to everybody that was affected by it, the families, the service people in the years afterwards, and everyone down the road. Having said that,
It's
it
appreciated. Thank you.
Yes,
Everybody remembers exactly where they were,
Yep.
exactly.
I do.
you know?
Yep.
I know exactly. I remember the
Yep.
phone call, turn on the TV.
Yeah, exactly.
So, having said that, that was one of the greatest influencers on the modern day economy in the longest time period. It drove patriotism, it drove Buy American, drove all kinds of different things into our economy. Today, another world event actually affected our economy, and it affected our economy in a bad way because we had to influence spending to get everyone safe again. And that put a lot of stress on the monetary policy of the governments. Doing so, it inflated the economy, and then everything else came in line with that, and it just became a reciprocating issue. So, what do we have today? We have one of the highest average prices for a new car. We have interest rates that are butting up on double digits. We have the average car payment hovering around $700. We have the 56% of our people out there are in subprime. We have challenges upon challenges upon challenges, but we all know one thing: people have to drive cars. And so we have to figure a way around it. Do we pivot to used cars? Do we do this? Do we move towards primarily on leasing? Right now in the United States, it's leasing penetration is 24%. Does that increase because of affordability? Does the manufacturers come around like Stellantis and get their heads out of their butts? Because think about it, is a Grand Wagoneer worth more than a Lexus LX 600? Not a chance, but they're charging that. So where do we start? Do we start in our financing? Do we start in how we operate our dealerships? Is it the OEMs? Is it the customers changing their thought processes? So with with that little diatribe, and knowing that our good friend Tony is outside of his favorite spot, or one of his favorite spots, and knowing that he's on the clock, please, Tony, jump in and give us your thoughts and wisdom.
Isn't it interesting, and it is to me, how fast the American public accepted $700 car payments? It was almost like overnight where they're like, okay, I'll do the 700. Before COVID, three, four, the average person, maybe five. But then all of a sudden, nope, I'm good with 700, 800, $1,000 for average people, right? for the median income, it's just bizarre to me that people accepted that so fast. And when you're accepting a $700, $800, $900 car payment, that's not for a day, a month, a year. These people are 60 months, 72 months, right?
Absolutely.
Betting on what? That their income's going to increase that dramatically?
My Wrangler's $931 a month for 8 years.
Holy hoy. And I'm rolling at $1.90 a month. So I'm pretty happy with that. And I don't pay for gas. But, the manufacturers, well, during COVID, dealers sold everything at sticker and above because of supply and demand. And I think the manufacturers got drunk on the thought that, well, the dealers are making all that money. Let's raise our prices and let us make that money. And so they did. And now there's not a supply and demand issue, right? There's plenty of supply and no demand.
Well, you missed one part of that, Tony. The one part of that is the dealers raised their prices, the manufacturers raised the prices. Well, what happened next? The unions raised their prices.
Right. And then the rates went up.
And everything. And then the banks raised their prices.
Right. But we're not seeing incomes raise at that rate.
Nope.
Anywhere close to that rate. So I'm curious where it goes. I mean, you've got people that are $8,000, $10,000, $20,000 upside down in their vehicles, looking, trying to trade in 3 or 4 years and trading up to the same vehicle with list price more than the one they bought before, of course. So where does it go? When does the automotive industry have its crash? Because the cars, you buy a Chrysler on a 7-year loan. Are you freaking kidding me? We all know that car's not lasting that long without significant investment in repairs. So those people are going to be trying to trade out, only to discover that their $1,000 payment today is $1,500 2 years from now. I don't know where it ends.
And that's the challenge. It's you have the short-term thinking. Well, I need a car. My lease is done. I have to buy a car. My car was written off, whatever, and they bought it at the wrong time. And now I saw on one of my forums a gentleman was pleading with the car dealership industry and saying, "Listen, I'm over my head in my car. Can someone help me out?" And everyone said, "Okay, what kind of car do you have?" He goes, "A Volkswagen ID4." Okay, decent car. How much are you over? $27,000 upside down. He ain't going nowhere. Nowhere.
But
the car isn't worth that retail.
But there's no elixir for that, that's going to happen in a year. Because
there is.
You got Elon Musk out there that decides one day, I'm just going to drop the price on all these cars by 10 grand. Well, what about the people that bought yesterday? Now they're upside down without any need to be,
Right.
I mean, that's certainly a, unicorn.
Well, it's not a unicorn. It happens everywhere. And Tony, I'm sorry, but you're a prime example of it. There was a $17,000 rebate put on the car that you were driving.
Right.
How about the people that bought it when it first came out because they were dying for that car?
No, I get it.
Yeah, but Peter, you always got that. You always had people that came in and say, "Wait a minute, I just bought the car. Now there's 0%, or now there's a rebate." By the way, at a certain point, we should get Ron Baus in there because he owns a Chrysler dealership, and he's probably on both ends of this, trying to keep his customers happy, trying to balance inventory. So whenever you feel like you're ready, Ron, jump in, please. We'd love to hear your input on it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
I'm here.
Well, that's good.
Thanks for that.
That's the first step.
Ron, you jumped out so quick, I didn't even have a chance to make fun of your tie. That's not fair to me.
No, it's all good. No, I just one of the days, man, being a Stellantis dealer, trying to please everybody and all this other stuff. And there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. I can't get into too much, but hopefully they're gonna get the attention of the CEO to do what needs to be done. So, but yeah, it's fun times.
Ron, what needs to be done?
So they keep pushing, and I don't know if you're familiar, but like they're pushing for more orders with coupons. And the fact of the matter is, we have inventory that we need to move, and it's old. And you're talking 150, 200, 250 days old. Like, and a significant amount of our inventory, not just me, but around. We need to sell down, what we have. And if we can move that, then we'll gladly order more. But when you got like, and I'm a small guy, I got 20 hybrid Wranglers, and they're not exactly flying off my lot. So we need some type of support. Now they came out with Duracash last month. Did it help a little? Maybe got me a deal or two, but the people aren't just really, this whole hybrid technology, electric technology. There's still some unease about it. I have confidence in the product, but still, nonetheless, it's like, we're still faced with these challenging quality issues. We still have, how do you have $100,000 Wagoneer that, the window don't go up or the radio locks up, or I had one, the motor blew up, because you didn't have, I don't know, supposedly you didn't have high test in it or something. It's just like, that could go on and on and on, but still, it's like the disconnect between the higher ups to the dealers has finally come to a head, so to speak. So hopefully we're able to get these guys in the room and on the same page and say, look, quit screwing around with, you need the temperature to be 70 degrees and it's got to be a Wednesday and you can get this rebate. Like, come on, man. Like, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Even my wife knows my issue. So it's like, but I'm just saying, like, just being facetious, but I'm saying, like, that's how ridiculous it's gotten. Like, how do you have, like, how come we're not pushing more for lease loyalty? How come we're not, incentive? Like, I've done this a long time. I mean, we sold back more lease returns than I could care to tell you in a year, just because they weren't attractive leases. And that's across the board, every brand. It's not just me. But at some point, like, we just, we just allowed this to happen. So it's just a constant fight daily. If that, like I said, just kind of venting a little, but that's some of the challenges. But finally, I think we got the the ear of the CEO, and hopefully we'll see some progress in coming days.
Well, one of the challenges that I see with Chrysler when it comes to leases is residual values. To talk about what you talked about speak to, about the quality, you can't put a high residual on a piece of junk, right? And otherwise that hen comes home to roost. At the end of 3 years, Chrysler's going to take it on the chin on the back end if they artificially inflate residual values, which is not something that Toyota does. In fact, Toyota is still in a position where maybe they're still underestimating residual values. So, if Chrysler is going to do leasing right, they've got to figure out how to build a product that holds its value, that people want after it comes off the end of a 3-year lease. And the problem is, how many people are out looking to buy a 3-year-old Chrysler off a used car lot?
Well, I kind of disagree with that, Tony, because I would say the Jeep Wrangler has one of the highest resale values of any car in mass production.
And that you're right, Peter. That's one brand and that's one model.
But if you look at the other spectrum of it, a Jeep Renegade, no one wants to touch it with a 10-foot pole.
Well, they discontinued that. Like, that's the other thing. We priced ourselves out of the market we don't even have a competitive entry level car. Although I will tell you one thing, Tony. This came up at the auction one time, and we all agreed that Chrysler makes the best used cars on the market. So because of the depreciation,
they build the most used cars.
Yeah, so we make a great used car.
Hey, Ron, it's all kidding aside, it's not hopeless. When I was a Hyundai dealer, we went through a period of time where nobody was getting Hyundais because the leases weren't competitive with Nissan or Toyota or Honda because the residuals were so soft. And I mean, whatever Tony's opinion may or may not be, there's still some damn good Chrysler products out there. They might have some quality issues. I'm not going to debate that, but it's still a good car. But when we were selling Hyundais, they were perceived as garbage. If you
Yes,
tried to sell somebody a Hyundai, they got offended. But
but Hyundai fixed that, Larry.
well,
Their quality's
I think what
good.
Ron's hoping is that they get the ear of the manufacturers and they turn things around. Listen, one thing about Chrysler, and this is to their not to their credit, to their blame, is how pliable they are. You know, look at when they marched in with Sergio Marcio. Look when they went in with Mercedes. So it's not like as a company they're not afraid to turn in a different direction. And if they do turn in the direction of putting in a little more quality, it's not impossible. I got faith in Ron, and Ron has to have faith in his product because it's his product.
Well,
Yeah, what
yeah,
I'm saying is, when they've got to turn it around long term. Uh, there's never in my history, 36 years in the business, I can't name you a 5-year span where Chrysler could tout more than half of their products had high quality. They might have one or two, but they've not had a very good reputation for quality for eons.
so Tony,
Eons.
to that point, I'll just share something with you guys. And this is part of the challenge. Like the example, I'll give you an example of what we're dealing with. We have a customer bought a brand new car for 300. The gentleman's I don't know, about 70 years old, older, nice guy. Buys a car brand new. Literally has about 16,000 miles on it, and he has something that I've never seen before. And it's like a line in his seat, and like when I say like a perfectly straight line, and it's not on the seam, it's about like a couple centimeters off of it. We send it in for digital imaging, and this is the hoops we got to jump through. We take the picture. Well, they take the picture and they can't see it. They kick the clean back. They said, well, it's wear and tear. So I happened to have one of our field reps in yesterday, and I said, let me show you something. And I said, and he starts, he says, well, this is wear and tear. I says, listen to me. Wear and tear does not have a straight line ever. Okay. We can all agree. We've all seen wear and tear. It's a small circle. It's a little bit on the edge. It's a wear, like, the material, whatever the case is, in other words, the material stretched to the point where it looks like it got dirt in it, but it's a perfectly straight line. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And it got to the point where my area sales and service manager gets back to me and says, well, do you want to Goodwill this? And I'm like, I don't care what you do. I said, but personally, I think you need to take care of this. I said, you want us to keep pushing for more cars. And I said, but yet I'm jerking a 70-year-old man around. This is not a wear and tear. Like, it has to get to me to fight for the person when my own service manager can only take this so far. So it's like,
Right.
What my job is now? Give me all your problems and let me just bundle them up. I'll get together with the rep and and guess what? Then it turns out to, all right, well, they cover this, this, and this. And hey, can you make a deal and take these parts or take an extra car? And it's like, why do we even have to make a deal? This is your shit I'm trying to fix, and I'm trying to take care of the customer. I lose thousands on loaner cars, Goodwill, all kinds of stuff. And that's just a frustrating thing. It's like I said, I'm not mad about it. I'm not, I'm kind of like numb to the whole thing. But at some point, you get to a point where you're like, when's enough?
Yeah, and new client acquisition is the most expensive thing you got going, right? If you can't build the loyalty in the product in the way that many other brands have done, you're spending way too much money constantly trying to win new business instead of having a solid base of loyal customers and building on that. So there's an example. What do you think that guy is saying to his friends, families, and is he going to buy another Chrysler? I don't know.
Well,
would you?
To the point where he's a local guy, he's a nice guy, and it's just, and thankfully he's patient. I'm like, that's the other thing. Why do I have to go through pre-approval on a warranty item? I swear everything I do. I don't care if it's a transmission. I don't care if the radio goes out. I got to get pre-authorization. It's like, are you serious? Like, it's incredible what we have to kind of jump through. In the midst of everything's going on in the world, and all this other stuff. And listen, at the end of the day, I know every franchise has their challenges. But the fact of the matter is, I can't worry about every franchise. I got to worry about me, and I got to worry about, my people, my staff, and so and so forth. It's very, it's an energy drain. It's like an energy vampire. It just sucks it out of you, and just some days are,
Right.
Like a victory is like selling a car.
Hey, Ron, question. What is your feel for will you get more support? Now, I'll give you, for instance, when I got into Cadillac as a salesman, not as an owner yet, we had two guys, uh, Grettenberger and Pete Gerosa. And Gerosa was character. He would do like motivational films, dressed like Patton. He always chomped on a cigar, and the dealers felt you could talk to him, you could call him. Grettenberger was a little more aloof. He was the guy that you felt really wasn't taking you seriously. He was the bureaucrat, if you will. Do you feel you're making some kind of headway? Not you personally, but Chrysler dealers. Do you feel there's someone in the upper echelons that maybe you have their ear, you have some kind of positive feeling that something good's going to happen?
Well, here's what I can tell you. I'm just at a slight advantage because I'm on the local dealer council. So I'm kind of in touch with some of the higher ups, so to speak. Not that that gives me any favor or anything, but I feel like if we all have the same problem, we're rowing in the same direction, I have somebody I can reach to. My area sales manager and service manager are both, decent people. But the fact of the matter is, like, my area service manager is really becoming more like a retail agent. It's like they're constantly being, pushed to sign programs, buy parts, this and that. In the meantime, then that's the fixed stops. On the sales side, you know, they're pushing obviously for orders and things like that. And quite frankly, I had to really draw the line and say, I'm not ordering any more cars till I sell down to a certain point.
Sure.
The fact of the matter is, I have 150 cars on the ground, approximately. Okay. Prior to 2009, I had 220, and I had less money with the 220 cars than I do the 150. The price of stuff has just gotten so, it's just
Not to mention the price of carrying the cars with floor plan expense.
Sure, and that's the other thing. It's now it's become like, it's we're back to that race to the bottom, if you will. Because again, what I was saying earlier, their solution is, we'll do a coupon program and we'll do this and that if you order more cars. That doesn't solve anything. I need to sell the cars now. And that's the message we've been trying to finally get to like, their ears are open, So I feel like the communication support's getting a little bit better, but you got to remember something. We kind of gutted our company. We laid off engineers. We closed down plants. We laid off, all these other people. And, and the other thing is the dealer body, and I can only speak for myself, is like, for example, they sent us a letter about 3-4 weeks ago. They're hiring 200 buyback specialists. Okay. Now, that's all well and good. Okay. To assist with, all the issues they're having. Why aren't we hiring 100 engineers? Why aren't we hiring quality?
Why aren't you doing something to solve the problem rather than have somebody clean up the problem?
So, and then this is where I get a little jaded, is because the last paragraph of that letter is a reminder in our gold book that if we don't repair or we don't report or we don't document, we are liable and will eat the car back ourselves.
Oh, hold on. Ron, Wendy just joined us. Wendy, while Ron is talking, could you dial in the number for the suicide prevention hotline? He's talking about his relation with the hierarchy mucks. It might be coming up any second. Go ahead, Ron.
I'm good. I'm fine. But I'm just saying, like,
I'm almost there for you, Ron.
No, but like, and I expressed this in one of our calls the other day, and I'm like, you know what it's like to get a letter like that, and then it's like, oh, by the way, if you didn't do this, and this right, then you're going to be responsible and have to buy the car back. Like, you got to feel like shit. I mean, like, it's like just like, I mean, and it just seems like up until this point, we can handle the negative news, we can handle all that stuff, but it's like the perfect storm between
the behavior, the current, climate of things, the lack of, support for the product. It's like you're hitting the perfect storm. So it's like, you know, listen, I mean, Larry, you've been doing this a lot longer than I have, but we both can agree we've been through some wild ups and downs in a 40-year span. And I have to tell you, I'm not really surprised by this because, we, like I shared personally with you in 2009, my father passed. We had motorhomes. I was tied up with another business, and I had a partner that wanted to be bought out. That turned into a lawsuit. So it was like I'm used to the craziness. I'm just kind of used to it. But when you have a period where things are good, it's like great. But I couldn't even enjoy that 1 year after COVID because it was like this is not real. Like like we all know it goes up, comes down, and this, that, and goes cyclical. But man, when we came down, we went underground. Like we crashed. Like we literally just hit a wall.
Ron, the only good news is because Ron's one of my really good buddies, and I like to, as much as I kid with him, I like to always encourage him. There's hope. Let me. You're a Chrysler guy through and through. I'm a GM guy through and through because we were Cadillac forever. Look what happened with Cadillac. I don't know how familiar you all are with Cadillac, but the guys at Cadillac must have ingested a large amount of psychedelic drugs. They sat around in a room and they came up with the 468, the diesel, and the 6. I think they're still settling lawsuits on the diesel. Why would you put a 6-cylinder in a big Cadillac? And Jeff, you're sophisticated. Larkin is on the 468. All anybody did was disconnect the 4 and the 6. Then they came out with the 4100, which might be the worst motor of all time. I don't think there was a good one anywhere. You were surprised if it didn't go bad. And wait, then they decided they were going to turn around and get fancy like the Europeans. What did they give us? The Catera. Does anybody remember the Catera? It was an Opel GT rebadged. So all I'm telling you is somehow they turned it around and they got the CTS. And all of a sudden, people who were looking at a BMW or Mercedes would even give consideration to a Cadillac, where they laughing at it before.
You forget the best one of all time.
You left out the Cimarron. You left out the Caddy Cimarron.
Cimarron.
For anybody that doesn't know, once they got past the psychedelics, they just started to smoke really good hashish. They got real high, and they said, let's take a Chevy Nova and put a Cadillac emblem on it. But it's okay, because they were friendly with the Lincoln guys who were also smoking crack, and they took a Granada and put a Lincoln badge on it. Does everybody remember the Lincoln Versailles? Yeah, yep. You guys are 100% right. But Ron, all I'm telling you is there's hope. Wendy, how are you today? Ron's too depressing. How are you feeling? What's going on? We're talking about, I guess in terms what, Peter, of how things might have a shot at getting a little better. What's the forecast?
Well, it's basically what are we doing with the economy of the car business?
Wend, you got your finger on a lot of pulse. You're in with a lot of dealer groups. What do you see is coming? You have to handle a lot of people that are still dreaming of a $300 car payment. At which point, Ron Baus says, "Sure, we can do that 2.5 times a month." What are you seeing, Wend?
Well, so with my dealers, I don't see a lot of the specifics as far as dollar amounts and budgets and stuff like that, like you guys do. But what I do see is that everybody's retargeting their marketing efforts, and they're looking for better ways to get better ROI, especially on the fixed ops side. But what I don't see is them fixing the internal things that are keeping the leads from being converted to showroom traffic and service lane visits. So I think, like, for example, I've found over the last year that on the fixed ops side anyway, trying to drum up business for whatever reason, whether it's you're inactive, you're sold but not serviced, you're serviced but not sold, your first oil change, et cetera, they keep beating the same, they keep beating on the same doors, and people are starting to get ticked off because they're being reached out to excessively and for the same old kind of thing. So I think what we're seeing, and we're seeing the emergence, I think, of more like, like I know April's in one, for example, the same as I'm in a vendor 20 group with David Kane, since he went over to NCM. So I'm seeing a lot more vendors and marketing teams in vendor and marketing 20 groups looking to do more collaboration, in my opinion, from those that have weathered certain storms in other areas of the country or to other types of dealerships to try to get some creative flow going, because we need to stop doing the same thing and expecting them to drive the traffic. But I also am saying that we still have a lot of toxic BDC environments. And now that a lot of the outsourced BDCs are buying up other things like telephony companies and software and AI products and such, they're trying to monopolize the same as we had with CDK and a lot of the other, with Cox and all that. So, but I still think that the challenge remains on the human side, and I'm going to wave that human side flag till my last from my dying breath. We just need to work more together, because the more I see they're trying to do different things, they're trying to get more appointments and stuff out of the sales department, which makes them angry at the BDC, who they see still getting all the leads like they did 20 years ago. So then we're creating a rift and bridging. Then once we started trying to bridge the divides, now we're creating those gaps again. So that's what
Wendy, I think you're, because I love you, you're probably too polite. What I would say, you're the BDC queen, I'm not, but what I would say when they moaned and groaned about like the business distribution being uneven, I just ask them a couple simple questions. When was the last time you went back to service? And when was the last time you went to look at the orphan files? Because what's so crazy is we continue to look outward when the business is inward. Hey, I got in here late. I was driving back from Connecticut. I'd love to hear from my man Mike Larkin and from Jeff Scherer too, and then we'll circle back with everybody. It's so nice to see everybody as usual. Mike, you want to go first?
Sure. All right. So,
Mike, would you like to, before you start, would you like to buy a Chrysler? Ron Baus would love to sell you one.
What kind of emblem is on the front hood?
They have quality control problems, which means you'll spend a lot of time in service. Ron's charming. It'll really be good for you, friendly wise. Go ahead.
That's one way to spend time with me.
Right?
There it is.
Great idea, Larry. The check is in mail.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Just before you start, Mike, I'm going to tell you, my Jeep Wrangler 4xe has only been in the dealership once for an issue, twice for an issue. It was solved. But other than that, not a single thing wrong with it. And I put 50,000 miles on it in a year.
Hey, Jeff Scherer, would you cue up the music Peter needs to have behind him playing Queen's I'm in Love with My Car, the one Roger Taylor sings? Go ahead, Mike. It's so unusual for Peter to interrupt you rather than me. We're getting very.
Oh, come on.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Hey, I look at it as a positive. We're going in the right direction so long as we focus on the humans taking what's given to them as far as technology. I'm running 4 different core platforms, and I'm finding that there's a need for each one of them, but there's only a want for the car dealers for one of them. And that one is the traffic portion. So we've put all our mental abilities together and are focusing on what they want is more traffic, more targeted traffic. And how do we do that better in helping our clients dominate in their local market? That's our focus. I mean, this week, everything is changing every single week. It's crazy. But this week we launched a keyword finder. And what it does is different than anybody else doing it is we'll put in a keyword, cars, Trenton, New Jersey. And it'll find like keywords. Great. Right? For Trenton, New Jersey, just that market. And then we go into studying every one of the Google pages where it found those same kind of like keywords. So 10 spots, and it actually goes in and reads the strength of those websites occupying those 10 spots. And it lights up in green those weak spots. That's what we're going after. And we're going after them for the traffic people get from social media, focused on that word. For videos, focused on that word. Articles, focused on that word. Right? So we're doing things the right way instead of just throwing stuff on the wall and seeing what sticks. We're kind of methodically going through it. Now the hard part is educating these guys because it's there. It's now no longer a theory. So the future is looking bright so long as people can open our eyes and see, hey, things are changing at a rapid pace for the better, in case you didn't know, but not everybody sees that as rose-colored glasses is the way I do, but I've seen it for myself. So it's not like selling it. It's like, see for yourself.
Well, Mike, I think the issue is, and then we'll jump to my buddy Jeff, is this is a program for optimists. I mean, Peter's always optimistic, Scherer, Ron Baus, but we're talking about the fact that sometimes reality smacks us in the face. Everybody that's ever sold cars or ever owned a dealership has confronted that one person. Maybe he didn't even do anything weird. It was just he was so far upside down that he traded his car and you had to roll that in equity in. There it is. I think the concern now is what a preponderance of people we have that are upside down, which really makes it difficult. Jeff, I never in my life put anybody in an 84-month finance. I very reluctantly did 72 months because I knew not only didn't it help the customer, it didn't help me because when they did come back and they were all excited to trade out, they had paid mostly interest and no principal. But the problem is our market got so strange and people were willing to pay so much, which certainly seemed like a wonderful thing at the time if you were a dealer and you were measuring profits. But now is a pretty ugly, horrendous situation because so many people are flipped. And then in poor Ron's case, he's got some quality issues and a lack of support. So we're not talking about great ideas. Wendy's got them, Peter's got them, Jeff's got everybody on the damn show except me has good ideas. But we're talking about the fact that we're still running into a bit of a brick wall because there's certain economic factors. Jeff, we used to laugh. Everybody wanted to be at $300 a month. 300. It didn't matter. The car could be 112,000. And we nurtured them, we hugged them, and they left at 402. But when you get up to 700 with people that are already choked by various prices and various things, it gets a little scary because we're actually pricing people out of the market. So I think that was the only thing, Mike. We're no doubt you, Wendy, everybody has good ideas in the show. But we also have to face the reality that we're dealing with a market that got overheated and overinflated, and it looked good at the time, and now we've got problems. Mr. Scherer, shed some light and sanity on it, please.
Well, we all know that the interest rate, isn't really what makes the payments high. It's because the car is so damn expensive. And I was thinking, when Peter was bringing up those points at the beginning of the call, we all said, I'll never pay $1,000 for an iPhone. Get out of here. Yet what's in our pocket? We found a way. And man, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful or anything, but you see bums on the street here in Denver, guess what? They all have cell phones. They find a way. But I think it's different in the car business because you got to qualify. Somebody, if they really want an iPhone, they'll go scrape up $1,000 in cash from somewhere, right? But for a car, man, you got to qualify because nobody's writing a check.
Hey, Jeff, let me just throw a variant into that because it's interesting what you said. Like everybody on the show, I can afford to write a check if I wanted for an iPhone, but I never do. I float their money because there's no interest on it. And they split it up and they take it out of my payment. But that's the opposite of, unfortunately, what my friend Ron is going through, because you have tremendous support from Apple, from the phone store you're dealing with. And if you have a problem or a question, one good thing with Apple is there's always somebody there to help and be friendly. It's, it's the Amazon thing. It's easy to return them. It's easier to buy them. It's easier to get them shipped. The problem you run into is when you have no support from these people. If the bums came in or the young people came in or people on a tight budget came in and they said, oh, you want an iPhone? No problem. Where's your 1,000? You'd sell a whole lot less iPhones. And that's a fact because the bums wouldn't have $1,000. So I again, just making it circular, I think Ron will agree that it's not the machinations from the ground up, it's from the high tower down, because if they're not building the cars properly and they're not supporting the old vehicles you want, the answer can never be, oh, you need more, you need to get rid of your cars, take more. Because that's absolutely doesn't make sense. Go ahead. I didn't even interrupt you, Jeff, but I just think it's a different support system that makes it easier and facilitates more buys.
And what does or most of the buyers want now? They want a pickup truck that's $70,000, or they want an SUV that's loaded out. And the dealers know that, and that I because we all follow it, but I'm amazed at how that middle SUV market is really swelling. Right? Because everybody wants a top of the line Explorer, you know what? But I can only afford the Hyundai, right? And it's the OEMs found out that, man, we can make some coin, on these SUVs. And, dealers are going to say, I'm ordering that thing loaded up, right? Because people are going to have to step up to that $800, $900 a month payment if they want that. And there's almost some, maybe I don't have a better word, but maybe Peter does, but arrogance, I think, in how this whole market is right now. And, Ron's on the other end of it.
Jeff, to your point, exactly to the product. All right. So, we have the Ram truck, right? So what is the Ram truck, known for? It's got a Hemi, right? We all agree that's been branded in our brain, Hemi, Ram truck goes together. We don't even offer the Hemi anymore. They took that away. And so we have this Hurricane V6, which is very responsive. It's good, but we don't even have the marketing that supports us say, hey, and I know we joke, things got a Hemi, this, that, and the other. But the fact of the matter is, it was synonymous with the brand. And now, because of whatever gas and this and that and so on and so forth, they restrict these. Listen, I'm a Jersey dealer, so for me to order one for stock, I'm never going to get it. They may build it in other, non-carb states, whatever you want to call them. But the fact of the matter is, that's just a perfect example. It's so near, I have a truck, and I legit lost a couple of deals because they're like, nah, I don't have a V8. Well, let's drive it. Yeah, but it doesn't sound right. It doesn't. And I'm like, and they're not towing anything significant with it. It's what they've gotten used to and what we burned into their brain. Now we have to deprogram them and, try to sell this. And that's an example of some of the things that, we see. It's like a new product comes out. It should be exciting. It should be, it should be better. And, you get the new technology and all that other stuff. And it's but then we pissed on the motor and it's where are we? That's so,
Ron, I just trained 15 people in Connecticut on how to listen, not how to talk, how to listen. And you will always have problems when the manufacturers don't listen to the dealers or the dealer councils. When they're more interested in being in an echo chamber and hearing what they have to say. Because if you can't tie in with the people that are actually on the ground, you're in trouble. They ain't Tesla. They're not going to sell cars without dealers. And to not listen to the dealers and help give them what they want, I think is professional suicide.
The simplest and easiest way to do this, stop ordering cars, and start to work your inventory down. They start to feel, because guess what? Their money's made the second it hits your tape. That's it. They're done. So, and that's fine.
Your invoice is their full list.
100%. And that's they make a product and we represent and sell it. But the fact of the matter is, once it leaves their factory, now it's mine. Well, if we don't order or we slow down, then all of a sudden they start to scramble a little bit. And it's why do we even have to play this game? Why do we even have to do this? And listen, We're going to survive. We're going to get through it. We're going to figure it out. But it's a waiting game, and then I have to depend on used cars. I got to depend on service, which is not bad. I'll sell used cars all day, but even that market is incredibly volatile in certain segments. Like I'll give you a quick example. I had a customer that bought a 2024 Kia EV6 all electric. He said his wife had a little fender bender, nothing major, and so she refused to drive it. The car's 10 months old, 2,500 miles, with a $62,000 list. And what do you think the car is worth?
27,000.
Well, it was 30. We put it like this. We put 35 in it. Okay. And called a Kia dealer. Because what the Kia dealer says is probably worth 40 to 42, but I'm not a buyer. I got brand new ones. I don't want it, blah, blah, blah. So what do? Let's go to CarMax. CarMax pays me $37,500. I'm like, you know what? Kick the car. Because after talking to the GM from the Kia dealership, I'm not screwing around with this. This car could be worth 30 grand next month. Like, it's dropped that much. So it's like certain types of things you have to watch. Like, think about that. It's like almost 50% car drops in 1 year. And the worst part was there was a bump sticker in the glove box for 9 grand. I don't know if the guy paid it, but I'm like, damn, like, this is incredible. So obviously the new thing that comes out first is the hottest. But when it comes to electrification, we have the Charger, we have the Wagoneer S. I got allocated a Scat Pack Charger, which is all electric, $85,000 list. I passed. I'm like, no, I'm not. Let somebody else be the hero. Because I got to tell you the truth, I don't know if that car hits my lot, and all of a sudden, like the Teslas and everything else we see, they're like, hey, we got $10,000 drops, this, that, and the other. Well, I can't risk that, not in this market. But that's the stuff that, and we forget who I am for a second, manufacturer wise. But that's some of the stuff we see, like the volatility, of used is you really got to watch. Like, you can't take your eye. It's like going every day and look at something. It's like you could wake up tomorrow, like somebody was saying earlier about Tesla. Imagine that, buying the car and the next day you find out it dropped 20 grand. I'd want to vomit. Like, how do you think that buyer feels?
Well, the Tesla S dropped $37,000 on a $100,000 car in 12 months. That was at there. You're on mute.
There's your case for leasing.
Yeah, what Ron is saying is the scary thing is it's not a year where it drops. It drops almost immediately. How the hell do you plan that? I mean, you're trying to be on a very quick turn because of floor plan expense and because you'll be more profitable if you turn cars and you'll keep your salespeople interested. But boy, when you get those kind of jumps and dips and dives, that's frightening. And Elon Musk fears no one. He's the original guy that has so much money. No matter what he does, it's not wrong because it never reaches him. If you had 10 cars in your lot and they all dropped 20 grand, Ron Baus would be in deep trouble. A lot of dealers would be. But Musk never sees it or never feels it. What do you think? We've steered you back onto the course of how the economy's rolling. And while you're not directly involved with it, you certainly hear enough complaints through B2Cs because I'm sure some people have trades and they're on the deep end of the pool as far as equity.
They've simply lost hope. They've lost hope. I mean, the people that we talk to, we can't even swim with the best of the best, especially and it's not only those who are subprime, but those who have negative equity and they're deep subprime, they're all hope is lost. Whatever kind of campaigns we try, a buyback, a sellback, or whatever, or even to do information days to get them in to see if there's maybe a unit that we can, that'll book out better for them and take care of some of that equity.
Yeah, but Wendy, great as some of your dealers are, they don't have a bookshelf of $20,000 cars with equity.
Precisely. Yep.
Not to mention if they're challenge credit, and you got buy fees from $2,000 to $5,000. It's like, where are we going? That's the other side of it. It's like, and guess what? A $25,000 car is a great price point, but it only books for so much.
Ron, don't forget, Wendy's with those fancy people in Arizona. I was from Trenton. To us, a 700 score he was a 4, she was a 3, and we used to glue them together. Remember, Ron? The good old days before they arrested us?
I'm back home in Milwaukee for a week. I just landed a couple hours ago. And I'm looking forward to touching base and getting the pulse from a bunch of my old dealers here in town. But yeah, that's what the case is in Arizona. But I'll tell you, it's just, and I'm also finding, and I know this from the time that I spent with Greg Goebel, such a brilliant man when it comes to subprime and pricing your inventory so it books out right and everything else, and way ahead of his time. Now you've got, lot pop, and you've got everything else helping you with switch vehicles, helping you be more aware of what you got. And the problem is that, first of all, our salespeople are still turning everything into an inventory call. So they're bringing the people in on what they think they want because they're looking at a price point, not having any idea about payments or negative equity or this or that or the other, or loan value or any of that. So they're brooming them off the lot when they get there, when that ad leader is gone. And they also don't know how to sell the appointment and not the car, So there's a whole slew of people that compound the negative equity situation because they don't know how to sell a dang appointment and get people.
Hey, Wendy, Fred joined us. Fred, Ron Baus would like to know if you'd like to buy a Chrysler. He says it's very fuel efficient because it doesn't run, so you don't have to worry about putting gas in. Do I have that right, Ron?
I was holding out for a Pontiac.
Man, the best car I ever had in my life was a 69 Pontiac Grand Prix. Man, what a monster that car was. Unfortunate was, Fred, is it didn't have leather or velour. It had vinyl seats, and they were black. I still have grid marks on my legs.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. That is 69 Camaro, the first car I bought. And
Rhonda,
the vinyl.
Just stand by. Fred and I are fantasizing about our street race with his Camaro and my Grand Prix.
Yeah, that was cool.
Explain to the youngins on the show what used to happen when we had big motors and we didn't have unleaded gas. Remember Sunoco? You could buy 103 octane.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, could fill a car up for what, $15 or something. I mean, it wasn't much back then. Wow.
We're a little bit over 8 as usual. We welcome everybody's input. We appreciate you to death. It was so nice to see Fred and Wendy, all of you. Does anybody have any final thoughts or comments? Oh, you know what? Let me tee something up. Peter, what do you have on tap for tomorrow on your show?
Tomorrow night, I have branding. It's all in a name. I have Earl Sticks Brown, who's a good friend of many of us on the show.
Yep.
I have Don Brady.
Don't get scammed. Watch out for curbsiders who are illegal, unlicensed car dealers that sell. Watch out for curbside-built racks who are illegal, unlicensed car dealers that.
Ron, I guess you're not going to hire Peter as your IT guy.
No.
He just got attacked by his own computer.
Yeah. So sorry about that. Is Don Brady. As soon as I said Don Brady's name, it said don't get scammed by illegal car dealers. Which is not true. Don's probably one of the nicest car dealers out there. And
Rhonda, you have to go at some point. I'll drag your butt out with me to NADA or something. No, you think my ties are outrageous? Don Brady will dress as anything or anyone at any time. He's just a hard guy to be around and not smile.
Yeah. And then I have Jason Harris, the man in orange. And we're gonna be talking about personal branding, dealership branding, OEM branding, vendor branding, everything out there to actually build your customer base from a brand.
Now, when you say brand, you're talking about your personal identification. You're not talking about literally branding them with a branding iron, because Ron would love to do that to the buttocks of one of the head ups at Chrysler and put on his backside, build them better and cheaper. What do you think, Ron?
Yeah,
it has allure, doesn't it?
Got a nice rhyme to it.
Yeah, it sure does. Trust me, I've been in your spot many a times, Ron. I was with Jaguar when they wouldn't last more than 100 miles.
How about Sterling? How about we had a Sterling franchise, Wendy? We had 40 cars. None of them started. It's the old classic British problem. They build nice cars, but the electrical systems don't work. So
funny thing is, the Sterling was a Honda.
Yeah, except for the electrical system. That electrical system, Peter, I'm telling you, 40 cars, none of them would start. You know, I made sure anytime I sold a car, I put a pair of jumper cables in the back, and I'm not kidding, because that car was reliably unreliable.
Well, we had a conversation last night, and I'll leave it with this. We had a conversation, I think it was last night, about various brands, and it was when I started in this industry, I started with Jeep, Eagle, Renault, and people were talking about some Eagle products like the Eagle Premier. But I said, yeah, but you got to remember, how about the Summit? How about how about the Renault Fuego?
Peter, how we talked about the guys from Cadillac being whacked out with the 468 and the 6. Yep. How about AMC? These guys sat around and said, how ugly can we make our cars? You remember the Pacer and the Gremlin?
How about the Ambassador?
How about the Ambassador? Yeah. So that's an Ambassador. That was
the Matador.
Hey, Larry, talking about the Fuego for a second. This you'll laugh and hear this. Remember when you had cash for clunkers? And,
yep.
Okay. I had a guy come in with a Renault Fuego, and he didn't qualify because the car got good gas. I'm like, where do I go with this? It's a $100 car. He thinks he's getting 3,500. It actually did not make the qualification because of the EPA gas rate. I like almost died. I'm like, this car's not worth anything. This is your chance. He couldn't qualify because it actually met the standard or exceeded it.
So he lost buying it and he lost not selling it.
Yeah.
Hey guys, let's tune into Peter's show. Wendy, I have not been ignoring the human side of AI. Rhonda, relentlessly in the pursuit of me being world famous, keeps getting me booked. And every Wednesday, I'm teaching one of my crazy classes. But trust me, if I ever get a minute or I'm not somewhere Wednesday, you can always count on me because I love you, your show, April Simmons, Jennifer Sanford, your whole crew. So let's make sure we catch Wendy next Wednesday. Let's catch Peter tomorrow night. And if you know anybody that wants to buy a Chrysler, please reach out to Ron Baus. He's the nicest Chrysler dealer on earth. And if you have anybody you hate, Ron can also sell you some Chryslers that don't run. What do you think, Ron? You can accommodate either, right?
You're too kind, Larry. You're just waiting.
Hey, I happen to love you, or I would have attacked you for that tie. Do you realize you came on our show and you're wearing a tie that looks like Liberace's bathroom wallpaper?
Man, listen, that's my stock photo, man. That looks good. You know, I mean, I'm home.
Your stock is down.
The only problem is that was a tie from when Ron got his Chrysler dealership, and that's how old it is.
Celebrating Easter when I put that suit on, man.
It actually matches the logo for Career Changers and Lion Partnership.
There you go.
Perfect. Perfect.
Thank
you.
Look
at this. We did a mishmash. Hey, everybody, stay healthy. We love you. We appreciate you. Fred, thank you for joining in, man. It's such a pleasure to always see you. And Mr. Larkin. And Ron, we got to do dinner again soon, man. That was real. Ron and me have become buddies. He's the nicest guy on earth. And the two wives have hit it off. They're conspiring behind our backs to get together again.
Yeah, man. One lemon martini for Larry's wife. Woohoo! Look out.
That's true.
That's all right. Tell her you said that.
Bye, guys.
We'll see you.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you so much.